Hello, dear friends. After the calm of the eye of the hurricane, the gale returns in September. Opinion piece. The most difficult part. Entering the second part. We have passed the eye of the hurricane. The bottom line begins to emerge. Last year was the calm in the middle. Negative options are just guesswork. Canada and Mexico have been the last to change. The Financial Times argues for a currency changeover. Success for the Peruvian sol, Chilean peso, and Mexican peso. Venezuela, Argentina, Colombia, and Brazil have cryptocurrencies. Hurricane could make landfall in Galicia, Spain next week. Let's start. And this is how a storm works. First, there is the beginning of the journey through the storm. The middle of the storm is the calm in the middle of the eye of the hurricane. Then comes the second part of the storm, which is the most difficult part of the storm. Last year, it was the calm in the middle of the storm. Now, we have moved from the eye of the hurricane to the second part of the storm, which is the hardest part. But don't worry too much to avoid anxiety. By the way, a hurricane could make landfall in Spain next week. The US National Hurricane Center has confirmed the formation of the weather event in the Atlantic Ocean. The prediction is that it will strengthen pass over the Azores Islands and brush Galicia. There are 209 countries around the world that have their currency trading backed by gold and forex assets. The latest to enter were Canada and Mexico last Sunday night, according to the Diner Chronicles. Opinions. Gregory Manarino says liquidity is drying up fast and to prepare for a system-wide blockade. Lin Wood sent a message saying they expected to shut down the world economy on September 11, 2022. Yet another prediction that is difficult to fulfill. Lior Kant is of the opinion that the Great Reset in Davos will fail and that an economic reckoning is coming. He believes that the system is falling apart and that they are trying to mask it so that people think it is happening naturally. Joel Smalley believes that they have gone too far and too many citizens are realizing it. A confluence of factors is leading to the unavoidable collapse of the current social paradigm. Decentralized technologies would play an important role. In David Davine's opinion, the financial collapse has already begun with what is happening in Europe at the moment. Signs of this are the electricity prices are so high that it is impossible for businesses and homeowners to pay much more per month. Is the era of money over? Egon von Greyerz is a former Swiss banker and financial expert who says that the massive printing of money and the huge amount of an unpayable debt would lead to a financial collapse. He believes we are going to see a 30% drop in the markets in the next month or two. That would be the first fall, but that would only be the beginning. Markets would fall, in real terms, by 90 to 95% over the next few years, in his opinion. That wouldn't happen overnight, but if it happened suddenly, then there would be a disaster. Then there would be some extra money printing and people would be optimistic for a while. Those in power are going to promise something they cannot deliver. Rubicon. When bankers start advocating the reality of a global currency shift underway, especially in the Financial Times, There is no doubt that we have crossed the Rubicon River. Julius Caesar realized in 49 before Christ that there was no turning back. Once his armies crossed that stream and entered Rome proper, which created a civil war and eventually ended the Roman Empire. Today, our modern Caesars are realizing the same thing. There is no turning back since the financial empire reaches its logical conclusion. For the first time since the first Bretton Woods Treaty established the dollar as the world reserve currency, the petrodollar share of the global foreign exchange reserve of the Forex has fallen to 59% among the baskets of other nations' central banks. That would be significant. In quotes, "Don't be fooled by recent stock market strength. A new world is coming," said the chairman and chief executive of the investment firm Rockefeller International. What follows is the final battle between the global financial restart and the great reset of Davos, centralized through digital currencies. The former would be freedom, and the latter would be totalitarian control. What follows is the final battle between two opposing models of financial restart. The positive restart is likely to win, because the West depends on imports from the rest of the world. When no exporting nation accepts central bank digital currency as trade payment, the West would be forced to back its previous sovereign currencies with hard assets. This would be the trigger for the release of gold collateral to back new Western currencies. Americas. Thousands march in Mexico for the missing, now numbering 105,000. Remittances received by Mexico increased 16% in the first half of 2022. Chilean students lynched the president's brother in the street. Argentina announces alliance between companies to build liquefied natural gas plant. Bolivia has entered the top 10 lithium exporting countries as Russia is its largest buyer. Bolivia obtains a 65.5% discount on its cargo in the Peruvian port of Matarani. Petrobras announces new petrol price reduction. Monetary success. Most successful Latin American cryptocurrencies, Venezuela, Argentina, Colombia and Brazil, have taken the lead in terms of users of this financial variant for saving and exchanging payments. Venezuela's creation of the Petro in 2018 made it the first American country to have its own oil-based virtual currency. Avocado coin arrives from Mexico to revolutionize the avocado market. AgroToken from Argentina is backed by grains. Mushi coin from Colombia is based on environmental protection. These were the Latin American currencies that beat the dollar in August. Despite the complicated economic and financial situation in the world, some of the main American currencies managed to appreciate against the dollar. One of the best positioned currencies at the end of August was the Peruvian sol, which rose 2.26% against the dollar, according to Valora Analytic. The Mexican peso is another currency that has managed to weather the ups and downs of the global economy with an appreciation of between 0.9% and 1.03% against the dollar, closing August with a value of 20.13 pesos per currency. According to data from Valora Analytic, the Chilean peso was another of the currencies that appreciated during the 8th month of the year, although in a smaller proportion with just 0.01% more. mainly due to a sanctity of the approval of the new constitution. In contrast, Bloomberg finds that the Chilean peso was one of the currencies that depreciated the most by a total of 0.5%, as was the Uruguayan peso. Currencies such as Colombian peso also reported a decline of 3.6%. Both specialized sources match that the Argentine peso has been the worst performing American currency during August, with a depreciation of between 4.2% and 4.9%, to trade at value of 290 pesos to the dollar. Europe. European fertilizer plants slash production. Europe is creating this problem on its own, regardless of sanctions against Russia. Poland demands more than $1 billion in war repatriation from Germany. Pope Francis declares that humankind is experiencing the outbreak of the Third World War, during an audience at the Vatican. Fitch Ratings predicts a recession in the Eurozone this year if Russian gas supply ceases. Clean energy, such as solar and wind, will not be able to replace the supply provided by fossil fuels, whose reserves are dwindling worldwide, warns energy market expert Gail Tverberg. Russia. France and Germany plan to introduce Western propaganda into Russia through various communication strategies using networks such as TikTok, according to Bloomberg. Russia will stop supplying oil to countries that impose oil price restrictions. Ukrainian troops opened fire on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant in an unsuccessful attempt to prevent the arrival of inspectors. 3 saboteurs who tried to take control of the Zaporizhzhia plant are captured. Asia. China threatens to destroy Elon Musk's Starlink. They say Starlink satellites are particle weapons that track every nuclear silo on each and can destroy every rocket launched in 2 seconds. Curious. The door is open. The people are rising up. The leaders are panicking. And the village is angry. The agenda is falling apart, and the people see it very clearly. As William Yeats prophetically said, things are falling apart, the center cannot hold, and anarchy has come upon the world. John O'Savin recalls that the day Bill Clinton took office, there were huge windstorms. It was really impressive. Some things happen in the physical that also match in the spiritual. It is my personal belief that we are going to see some phenomena in the weather that match what is happening in the world, because it is in people's hearts. Cataclysmic theory. The 12,000-year Earth disaster would essentially be a repeat of what happened approximately 12,000 years ago, which brought an end to the ancient civilizations of Atlantis and Mu. According to this theory, the main destructive force of this event would be a micronova from the Sun caused by energies emanating from the galactic center, or core. According to Dog Poet, victims trapped in the swamp of materialism cry out in the silence of their thoughts until death hears them, and some of us hear them regularly. The secret of Poet Dog. The secret is to achieve a divine balance in which you do not wither away if you transcend the mind and emotions. If you are able to contact the causal plane, which is part of you, you could manifest dynamic changes in yourself and in the world around you, although this ability is blocked by the materialistic culture. Albert Albert Schweitzer's quote, in quotes, "The human being of today is forced to be skeptical of his own thinking in order to make himself receptive to the truth that comes to him from authority. To all this constant influence, he cannot put up the resistance that is desirable because he is an overbundled and distracted human being. He lives without the power to concentrate. Moreover, the manifold material hindrances which are his lot work upon his mentality in such a way that he finally comes to believe himself incompetent even to claim thoughts of his own." And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.